قال حدثنا عبد الله بن زياد قال حدثنا عيينة بن عبد الرحمن عن أبي بكرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ما من ذنب أجدر أن يجعل لصاحبه العقوبة مع ما يدخر له من البغي وقطيعة الرحم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said there is no sin أن يعجل لصاحبه العقوبة. There's no sin that would cause a person to be hastened. The punishment will come quickly, will rush to him, right? That there's no sin that would cause the punishment to rush worse than being a tyrant and cutting off the ties of kinship, or disconnecting family ties. So disconnecting family ties causes a person to be rushed, right? A person's punishment to be rushed. طيب, another hadith عن عمران بن حسين قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما تقولون في الزنا وشرب الخمر والسرقة قلنا الله ورسوله أعلم قال هن الفواحش وفيهن العقوبة ألا أنبئكم بأكبر الكبائر الشرك بالله عز وجل وعقوق الوالدين وكان متكئا فاحتفز قال والزور. So Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala cites his chain of narration to Imran ibn Husayn radiyallahu anhu. He said, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to his companions, what is your opinion of fornication, drinking alcohol and stealing, drinking khamr or wine and stealing? They said, Ya Rasulullah, they said, oh, Allah and His Messenger, no. Prophet ﷺ said, they are immorality and they cause a person to be punished. Should I not tell you about the most dangerous sins, the worst of sins? Prophet ﷺ said, setting up a partner with Allah and disrespecting your parents. So disrespecting your parents is worse than drinking alcohol, worse than stealing. And he was leaning and he stood up, or he sat up quickly, and he said was zur, which is lying. طيب. Imam Bukhari mentioned his chain of narration, or cites his chain of narration to Abi Hurairah رضي الله عنه. ذكر سنده إلى أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ما تكلم مولود من الناس في مهد إلا عيسى بن مريم وصاحب جريج. Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه said, I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم say, no child has spoken as an infant except for who? Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam and Sahib Jurayj, the companion of Jurayj. Have you guys heard of the companion of Jurayj? قيل يا نبي الله وما صاحب جريج. It was said, O Prophet of Allah, who is the companion of Jurayj? So could you imagine an infant speaking? Can you imagine an infant speaking? You can imagine it, right? So they say, what is the difference between a possibility and an impossibility? What do you guys think? What is the difference between a possibility and an impossibility? So have you ever seen an infant talk? Is it possible that an infant can talk? You said what? By miracle, you said. but it's possible. So they say a possibility is something that you can imagine happening. If you close your eyes, could you imagine a horse flying over this building?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a possibility. Like, how likely is it that a horse will fly over the building?
Well, not very.
0 to no chance. Right? It's just not gonna happen. But if it happens, you can think of something like that happening, right? An impossibility is something that even if you try, you can never imagine. Right, like a triangle circle. Can you think of a triangle circle?
No.
I'm thinking of a triangle instead of a circle.
Right? So a triangle and a circle are opposites. A triangle cannot be a circle, and a circle cannot be a triangle. It's just impossible. Right? That's like Allah being a man. It's impossible. Right? طيب صاحب جريج قال صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن جريجا كان رجلا راهبا في صومعة له. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, Jurayj was a you can say a rabbi, right? You guys familiar with a rabbi? What that term means? Ladies, rabbi? What's a rabbi?
Jewish version of a sheikh.
A Jewish what?
Version of a sheikh.
A Jewish version of a sheikh. I like how you described it. I'll use that inshallah. A Jewish version of a sheikh. So Jurayj was a rabbi, and he was in a temple, right? فأتت أمه نعم وكان راعي بقر يأوي إلى أسفل صومعته. And there was a cow herder, right? A person that herded cows that would come and rest at the bottom of his temple. وكانت امرأة من أهل القرية تختلف إلى الراعي. And there was a woman that was from the village who used to come to visit this cow herder. فأتت أمه يوما فقالت. So Jurayj's mother came one day and said, Ya Jurayj, meaning she called him, right? وهو يصلي, and he was making his salah. So what do you do? It depends on which salah. Okay. If it's fard, then what do you do?
Then you keep praying. It's sunnah.
All right, we'll talk about that. So Jurayj was making salah while his mother was calling him. فقال في نفسه وهو يصلي أمي وصلاتي. So he said to himself while he was praying, my mother, my salah. My mother, my salah. فرأى أن يؤثر صلاته. So he thought, okay, I'm gonna give preference to my salah. Let me finish praying and then I'll see about my mom. ثم صرخت به الثانية. Then she called him again. يا جريج. A second time. فقال في نفسه أمي وصلاتي. He said to himself, my mother and my salah. فرأى أن يؤثر صلاته. So he thought, okay, my salah is more important. Let me complete my salah. ثم صرخت به الثالثة فقال أمي وصلاتي فرأى أن يؤثر صلاته. So she called him again and he said أمي وصلاتي, my mother and my salah. And then he decided to prefer his salah over his mother. فلما لم يجبها قالت لا أماتك الله يا جريج حتى تنظر في وجه المومسات. ثم انصرفت. And since he didn't answer, she said, I ask Allah to not allow you to die until you look at the faces of prostitutes. Basically,
What's a prostitute?
you commit a sin. A woman who sells her body. Okay? Then she left. What'd she do?
She left.
She made dua against him first. She called him 3 times, he didn't answer, she made dua against him. And then she left. فأتى الملك نعم فأتي الملك بتلك المرأة ولدت. So remember the woman that we talked about that used to visit the cow herder? She became pregnant and she was brought in front of the king. And she had a child. So the king said, فَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ مِمَّنْ قَالَتْ مِنْ جُرَيْجٍ. So the king said, who's the father? She said, Jurayj. Right? Is she lying? Remember we said that because the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that this woman used to come see the sheep, the cow herder.
Yeah, she's
So she said, it's from Jurayj. فقال الملك أصاحب الصومعة. The king then asked her, are you talking about the man in the temple? قالت نعم. She said, yes. قال اهدموا صومعته وأتوني به. So the king commanded that his temple be torn down and he be brought before the king. فضربوا صومعته بالفؤوس حتى وقعت. So they struck his temple with axes until it broke and was destroyed. فجعلوا يده إلى عنقه بحبل. And then they tied his hands to his neck with a rope like this. Or maybe like Ziyad did. I don't know. ثم انطلق به, and he was taken away. فمر به على المومسات فرآهن فتبسم. So as he was on his way to the king, he passed by an area where there were prostitutes. And he saw them. And when he saw them, he smiled. وهن ينظرن إليه في الناس. And they are looking at him in front of everyone. فقال الملك ما تزعم هذه. So the king said, what is this woman claiming? قال ما تزعم. So Jurayj said, what is she claiming? قال تزعم أن ولدها منك. He said to him, she claims that her child is from you. قال أنت تزعمين. He said to her, are you claiming this? قالت نعم. She said, yes. قال أين هذه الصغير؟ أين هذا الصغير? He said, okay, where's the child? So he's having a conversation with this woman who's claiming, accusing him of being the father of her child. So he said, okay, where is this child? قالوا هو ذا في حجرها. They said, it's that child that is in her lap. فأقبل عليه فقال. So Jurayj came to him and said, من أبوك? He said to the child, who's your father? قال راعي البقر. He said, who said? The child, the infant. He said, the cow herder. قال الملك أنجعل صومعتك من ذهب. The king then said, should we build you a temple out of gold? قال لا. He said, no. قال من فضة. Then he said, out of silver then. قال من فضة. قال لا. He said, no. قال فما نجعلها. He said, how should we make it? How should we build it? قال ردوها كما كانت. He said, build it the same way it was. قال فما الذي تبسمت. So he asked him, okay, why did you smile? قال أمرا عرفته. He said, because of something that happened and I know what it was. أدركتني دعوة أمي ثم أخبرهم. He said, the dua of my mother reached me. And he told them. أخرجه البخاري وغيره. طيب. There's a lot in this hadith. Right? There's a lot. The first thing is the issue of his mother, or before we get to that, let's talk about Jurayj and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored him. Yeah? Or Allah exonerated him. So he was accused. Okay? He was accused of this heinous act. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exonerated him. But on top of that, He exonerated him to the point that his story is told until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? So we're talking about Jurayj now, thousands of years later. This is a sign that Allah honored him. Yes or no? And the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him is a testament to what kind of person he was. Okay? So back to his mother making dua. So he's standing in salah and his mother's calling him. Okay? So I asked a question earlier, if you're making your salah and your mother's calling you, is this an indicator that you have to answer her at all costs? I'm asking. No. Why not? But she made dua against him. Huh? Well, the dua was fulfilled. So a good question is it permissible for a mother to make dua against her children? You don't think so? So in this hadith, Imam al-Bukhari is mentioning, or he's stating this hadith, he's citing this hadith to indicate that a mother's dua against her children is accepted. A mother's dua against her children is accepted. Even though Jurayj didn't necessarily do something wrong. But he basically just got on his mother's nerves. So the fact that he got on her nerves and she made dua, her dua was accepted. Which tells you what? What? When you talk, I need you to take your hand off of your mouth so I can kind of hear you. Permissible. Permissible for what? For a mother to make dua against her children? So, let's look at this from a Shara'i standpoint. Shara' has to do with Islamic law. So Sharia is Islamic law. Like Ziyad said, it's going to depend on the situation. Because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is first, before mom. Okay? So if you know that your mother is in need, right? She has something on the fire, a pot fell, and she's in danger, and she's calling. Okay? And you're in salah, for example, and it's salat al-dhuhr, and it's the beginning of the time. Salah just began. And she calls you, right? And you know it's dangerous. You got to get up and go. Make your salah later. See the situation? So it's a dire need, you know it's a dire need. Alright? It's a dangerous situation. And it's at the beginning of the time of salah. You get up and go, even if it's fard, salah. What if it's not a dire need? Right? You know she just wants to see you. Right? And the time for salah is at the beginning of the time of salah. You're making your salah. And she calls you. Right? What do you do? You have to answer. Mu'adh and Ziyad, you here? You have to answer. I'm sorry, what? But you know it's not an emergency. You have to answer. I mean, it depends on the situation, but a lot of times you know. If you know it's not an emergency, you have to finish your salah. So you want to first begin with indicating that you're making salah. Because maybe she doesn't know you're making salah. But let's rewind a little bit. Before you make your salah, you should tell your mom, are you okay? Is there anything you need? I'm about to make my salah. That should be number one. Mom or your dad. I'm about to salli, you guys need anything before I salli? Right? Most parents, they're going to be like, no worries, make your salah. It's fine. Okay? Some parents are going to be like, no, I need you to take out the trash. Then I need you to wash the dishes. Then I need you to vacuum. Then I need you to clean your room. Then you're going to make your salah. That kind of parent, you tell them, okay, I need to use the bathroom. Right? You go and make your salah, and then you do the things that they ask you to do. You have to use your wits. You have to be smart. So you're making your salah, it's fard. Your parent calls you. You indicate some kind of way that you're making your salah. Allahu Akbar. You say it loudly. Okay? To indicate, I'm salli. She calls you again. What does this mean?
I mean, she probably needs you.
Exactly. She needs you. And it's still at the beginning of the time. So what do? You break yourself. You break yourself. Because making salah at the beginning of the time is what? Is recommended. It's not an obligation. But serving your mother when she's in need is an obligation. So when an obligation contradicts with a recommended action, the obligation is more important. Clear? I'm sorry, what? Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Aywa, what's your question? Right, if it's towards the end of the time, and the amount of time that is remaining is only enough for you to finish your salah, and she's calling you at that time, you have to finish your salah. إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. Right? Salah is a prescribed time. It's mandatory within a prescribed time. إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. What if you're in Salat al-Nafila? There's no problem with that. Right? Now, let's talk about Jurayj's mother making dua against him. Is it permissible for mothers to make dua against their children? So it's discouraged that a mother makes dua against her child. But the reason why it's not repeated a lot about or discouraging a mother to make dua against her children, the reason it's not repeated, the reason it's not discouraged like really strongly, is because a woman's love or a mother's love for her child and mercy upon her child is almost natural. Not almost, it's natural. And it's unlikely for a mother to want harm to come to her child. Okay? It's unlikely, it's rare for a mother to want harm to come to her child. So therefore, there's not much to indicate or to discourage a mother from making dua against her child. However, for mothers, you have to be very careful with what you say, especially when it comes to speaking to and about your children, because your position as a mother, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the dua of a mother answered. As the hadith mentions, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاث دعوات مستجابات. There are three forms of dua that are answered and that are accepted. لا شك فيهن. There is no doubt that these dua are answered. دعوة المظلوم, a person who was wronged, right? ودعوة المسافر, the dua of a person who is traveling. ودعوة الوالدين على ولدهما, and the dua of the parents against their children. What are the three, Ziyad? What are the three?
The dua of the parents against the children.
Right, that's one. Two.
The dua of the people who are traveling.
The traveler. Two. Three. Suhaib. Mu'adh. Mu'adh just came. Ladies, what's the third one? Sisters. Dua what? Parents against their children, number two. There's one more.
Dua when it's raining.
No. Not in this hadith. So this hadith mentions three. Traveler, parents against their children, the one who is oppressed. So the question is, can a parent oppress their children?
No.
Is it impossible?
It's not impossible. I can imagine.
I'm sorry, what?
It's not.
Can a parent oppress their children?
It's possible. Yes.
Yes. A parent can oppress their children. Parents can oppress their children. And it happens a lot. Right? It happens a lot. Not a little bit. A lot. Yes. Parents oppress their children. And parents, be afraid that your children don't make dua against you when you oppress them. Be wary. Right? قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم واتق دعوة المظلوم فإنه ليس بينها وبين الله حجاب. He told Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, beware of the dua that comes from the one who is oppressed, because there is no veil between it and Allah Azza wa Jalla. So we're talking about the mother of Jurayj making dua against him, and her dua being answered even though he didn't do anything harmful. Even though Jurayj didn't do anything harmful. Yes or no? Right? The hadith does not talk about his mother being in dire need. She needed him for something, he was making his salah. He didn't do anything harmful necessarily. However, one thing he could have done was what? I'm asking.
Don't like make a sign that
Yeah.
Make a sign.
Or like a letter
What else?
Before,
What?
or like
let her know before.
Beforehand.
or break
Or break his salah. Or
or just yell it out.
he's making salah. Maybe rush through his salah,
That's not.
right? Instead of saying Subhana Rabbi al-Azim 20 times, you can say Subhana Rabbi al-Azim once.
Wait, I thought it was.
The minimum is once.
I thought it was
3 is the minimum for complete. Right? The minimum for accepted is once. The minimum for complete is 3 times. He could have shortened his salah. He knows he's making salah, he can shorten it. But he made a comparison that was not really right on point. Okay? طيب. So the dua that his mother made against him was that he sees prostitutes. Not that he mingles with prostitutes, or that he engages with prostitutes, or that he sits with prostitutes. No, that he sees them with his eyes. Okay? Is this a form of punishment? I'm asking.
Yeah.
How?
Because that's a sin.
What's the sin?
Like it's a sin with your eyes to see something you're not supposed to.
It's a sin to see something you're not supposed to. That's incorrect.
That's what I was saying.
I'm sorry, what?
That's what I was saying.
So you're told that it's haram to see something that's haram. That's incorrect.
No.
So what's haram is to look at something. That's haram. Seeing it is not haram. What's the difference?
Looking is a purposeful.
Huh? Afwan?
Looking is on purpose. Seeing is just.
النظر والرؤية. Right? And right. So seeing something that's haram can be purposeful or incidental. You guys. So it's disrespectful to walk into a class, and as soon as you walk into the class, you're talking to the guys that are in the class. You're coming late. That's disrespectful. So what you want to do when you come to a class, because you're late, you just have a seat. Like, so seeing something that's haram can be either purposeful or incidental. Right? It's purposeful if you're looking. Looking is to attempt to see, to try to see. Clear? So what Jurayj did was not necessarily a sin. Right? He didn't necessarily get bad deeds for seeing these prostitutes. Clear? You guys with me? Like, so why is it dua against him? Why is it such a big deal? You just came, so of course you're not going to know. Why is it such a big deal? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. May Allah forgive us. May Allah forgive us. May Allah forgive us. The reason why it's such a big deal is because when you're not put in a situation where you have to lower your gaze, it's better than being put in a situation where you have to lower your gaze. Meaning, when you're not put in a situation where you have to be patient and not do the haram, meaning you're not thinking about haram. It's not there. It's not in your face. It's not accessible. Right? You're in a situation where it's not it's not even an issue. Right? You guys get me? So there's no alcohol anywhere. So how can I even think about drinking alcohol? It's not even there. Right? So when you're not in a situation, which was the case with Jurayj, because Jurayj was away from people. He was in his temple. Right? Out somewhere in the wilderness. Aywa. So he was put in a form of test. Right? Where he was not tested with before. And this becomes clear when you're in a situation where you're not thinking about sin. And then subhanAllah, you're put in a situation where it's everywhere. To the point that it clouds your mind. So the fact that he did not answer his mother right away. He didn't pay attention to his mother's need. He didn't accommodate for her because she called him 3 times. It wasn't just once. She didn't make dua for him, against him right away. Jurayj, and he's thinking, my mom and my salah. Jurayj, he's thinking, my mom and my salah. Jurayj, 3 times. It'd be different if it was 1 time and she made dua against him. No, this means that time lapsed. And he continued to ignore his mother. So she made dua against him and he was tested with this. But although he was tested with it, because he was sincere, because he was truthful, because he was in the right state of mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still honored him. However, he went through a test that he wouldn't have gone through had he been dutiful to his mother. Yeah? Which brings us back to the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, who asked a person, does he have a mother? When he said that he took someone's life. A person came to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma and said to him, I took someone's life, I killed someone, can I repent? Will Allah forgive me? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma asked him, do you have a mother? Meaning, is your mother around? So they asked, why did you ask him if his mother is around? He said, I don't know of any good deed that would cause a person to be forgiven better than serving your mother. Being kind to your mother, being dutiful to your mother. Okay? But before we move on, many times, we as children who have mothers or fathers, we get frustrated with our parents, thinking that they are too demanding. They're asking too much. They need too much from us. They require too much from us. It's impossible for me to make them happy. Right? This reminds me of Abu Hurairah, who used to stand at his mother's door and say to her, may Allah have mercy on you the same way you raised me as a child. How does that remind me of Abu Hurairah? You said what? You don't know. I'm going to tell you. We, as children who have parents, should speak to our parents and tell them, listen up. Especially if we get getting frustrated. Tell them, listen up. I love you and everything. You're my mom. You're my homie. Right? You're my dad. But I kind of feel like you're asking me for too much. I don't feel like I can ever make you happy. Right? I'm kind of feeling like you're putting too much on me. Can we talk about this? I want you to be happy, but it seems like you're never happy. Right? Maybe we can arrange something. Many parents, they'll be like, you know what? you're probably right. Some parents are difficult. They'll be like, boy, you better be happy I'm not asking you to do this, that, and the other. There's all kinds of things that I'm not asking you to do. My mom used to tell me to go out to the desert and get 2 buckets of water out of the well and walk back a mile. And I never complained. You should be grateful. Right? Some parents, that's what they say. But parents, you shouldn't do that. Listen to your children. Right? You should be happy your children are talking to you. Right? Because there is mental health in children as well. Children do suffer from mental health, especially if their parents are pushy. Allah yaghfir lana ya Rabb. طيب. أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه قال: ما سمع بي أحد يهودي ولا نصراني إلا أحبني إن أمي كنت أريدها على الإسلام فتأبى فقلت لها فأبت فأتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت ادعوا الله لها فدعا فأتيتها وقد أجافت عليها الباب فقالت يا أبا هريرة إني أسلمت فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت ادعوا الله لي ولأمي فقال اللهم عبدك أبو هريرة وأمه أحبهما إلى الناس. So Imam Bukhari states his chain of narration to Abu Hurairah. And Abu Hurairah said, no one will hear of me, whether they are Jewish or Christian, except they will love me. No one will hear of me except they will love me. He said, my mother, I wanted her to be a Muslim. And she used to refuse. I don't want to be a Muslim. I talked to her, be a Muslim, she didn't want to be a Muslim. So I said to her, no, be a Muslim, she didn't want to be a Muslim. So I went to the Prophet ﷺ and I said, Ya Rasulullah, make dua for her. Ud'u laha. So the Prophet ﷺ made dua for her. He says that I went to her and her door was open. And she said, Ya Aba Hurairah, I have accepted Islam. I converted. I'm a Muslim. So Abu Hurairah said, I went to the Prophet ﷺ and I said to him, Ya Rasulullah, ud'u Allah li wa li ummi. Make dua for me and for my mother. So he said, Oh Allah, your servant Abu Hurairah and his mother, love them and cause people to love them. Right? Love them and cause people to love them. Why are we talking about this hadith? You have no idea. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu used to give da'wah to his mother. He used to encourage his mother to be a Muslim. What if our parents are already Muslim? Then what? I'm asking. Encourage them to do what?
Do something.
To do better. Right? You can encourage them to do better. You can tell them, Mom, I love you. The way you spoke to me the other day, I felt was disrespectful. I think we can do better. Yes?
What if, like, you're a little kid and you disrespect your mom?
That's different.
So, like,
You should get a boot to your head. Oh, push!
but you're little.
You shouldn't have disrespected your mother, brother.
I know, but you said you can't hit your kid unless you tell.
You said what?
What if you're like 6?
What if what?
Like 6.
You're like 6. No, you're not supposed to. No, your parents are not supposed to hit you.
Yeah, but you used to just.
It's a joke, brother. You have to understand the difference between seriousness and a joke.
So as I was saying, what if it's like a little kid that disrespects?
Okay, what if?
What? They're like, no, nothing. No. You just tell them to stop. And that's it. No.
Well, there's a reason for the disrespect, right? And disrespect is not just out of the blue. As a parent, you have to parent. You have to do parenting. And parenting is a task. It's a project. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a one-day thing. Right? You have to try new things. You have to learn new things. You have to interact with your children depending on their need. Right? A child is not just going to disrespect their parents out of the blue. There's probably something else going on. Right? And even if they disrespect you, that doesn't give you the license to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're in your care. And you have to make sure that you're treating them properly so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't chastise you and punish you for your mistreatment of your children. Right? So that's a lot to cover. Right? Depends on the child's age. Depends on the child's maturity. Right? Depends on what happened, what caused this disrespect. Because sometimes a parent is the one that's putting pressure on the child, and the child doesn't know what to do, and they end up lashing out their parents because they didn't really have anything else, any other way to express themselves. So that's the result. Right? And if you're the cause, you're disrespecting your child, and the child lashes out because you're disrespecting them, don't get mad at the child, get mad at yourself. You know? But that doesn't mean a child can't be disrespectful because they're being bad. That's also possible. But there's a remedy for that. Right? If a child is responsible, meaning they've reached puberty, then you have to hold them to a higher standard, more accountable than a child that hasn't reached puberty yet. Depends. Anyway, Umar. What is a parent supposed to do if their child disrespects them? So give me an example. What kind of disrespect are you talking about? It's okay. It's a safe place, safe space here. You said what? In general, you said? I'm sorry, what?
I mean, he's saying it's, I guess, not respecting his voice. They don't care what he says.
So give me an example.
A 6-year-old.
A 6-year-old
uses big disrespectful words against his mom.
says to her,
I can't say the words.
you can't say the words.
No, I can't because it's disrespectful.
He says to her, be quiet, for example.
Like shut up.
He says to her, shut up.
Yeah, like shut up.
Right,
Yeah, he curses me in between the words.
right. A 6-year-old.
A 6-year-old says shut up. Maybe not a 6-year-old. A 6-year-old. Maybe like a 9-year-old. A 7-year-old. Maybe like a 9-year-old or 7-year-old. A 6-year-old. A 7-year-old.
Yeah.
He's past 7-year-old.
Okay, so am I going to answer this question, or are you guys going to keep talking?
Yeah. Why you talking? Yeah.
Are we going to address this question?
So a 7-year-old tells her mom or his dad, yeah, his mom or his dad,
Right.
to
Shut up. Okay.
what's the parent supposed to do?
We do have parents here. Sisters, do you have any suggestions on what to do? No?
Guys, we want to hear from the sisters.
You have any suggestions on what to do in this case? Yusuf, put the bottle down. Don't play with the bottle. Thank you. Anyone? I'm sorry? So in order for us to give the floor, allow other people to participate, you have to stop talking when it's not your turn. Thank you. Aywa? Bismillah. Anyone? Sisters? Huh? Uh-huh. Tamam. So she's saying, Yusuf, put that in the garbage, please. Put the bottle in the garbage. Because you're saying that she would do some form of punishment, right? Depending on the situation. Okay, more questions. Aywa, Suhaib.
What if you're 40 and your mom's 80?
40 and your mom's 80. Okay, let's talk about this first scenario first. Let's finish this first. Aywa.
What if he feels disrespected that his mom gave him a punishment so that he just does it more often?
Okay.
Then what not?
I don't understand what's funny. Like,
What's funny?
because these scenarios are real and it's important to understand how to deal with them.
Serious.
So to answer the question, and what you said, sister, and in terms of giving a punishment and taking something away, that's a good method. But a better approach is to look at the situation as is, and look at everything that is surrounding the situation. Okay, and you don't want to respond right away. As a parent, as a person in charge, when you're disrespected, you don't want to respond right away. Because when you respond right away, many times you're responding out of anger. And when you respond out of anger, most of the time the response is not equal to the transgression. Okay? So you want to take your time. You want to think about it. I mean, of course, you want to eliminate the harm. If harm is being caused, you want to eliminate the harm. Ziyad, thank you. You want to eliminate the harm. Okay. So, if they're continuing to be disrespectful, you want to prevent them from being disrespectful. You want to stop them. Okay. Then you have to look at the situation. Why did he say this? What happened? What is surrounding the situation? A lot of times a child that would speak this way to their mother or to their father, that child themselves is going through something. Maybe their mother and father are fighting, and they're seeing that this type of behavior is happening between their mother and father. And because that this behavior is happening between their mother and father, this is how they feel that they should respond, because this is what they're learning, this is what they're seeing. So it's not practical for you to punish them for a behavior that you yourself do. Right? So in that case, if this is the type of language that is already used at home, then you address the situation by acknowledging that yes, this language is used. However, this language is not proper. We should not use this language at home. It is my fault. I'm wrong. But that doesn't justify for you to use it as well. This is what I'm going to do as a parent to fix or to change the way that I act at home. And hopefully you can do this with me. Let's do this together. He must have learned it from somewhere. If this is a behavior that they picked up at school, and you never use this type of language at home, and this behavior never happens at home, they must have picked it up from somewhere else. Especially if you've never addressed this situation. You've never talked about saying shut up. You've never talked about this before. Then you want to have a conversation. So what made you say that? Do you think it's okay to say that? If you think it's okay to say it, then why do you think it's okay to say it? Where did you get that from? If they think it's not okay to say it, then you say, okay, why did you say something that you know it's not okay? You get to the bottom of it. Once they acknowledge that they made a mistake, and then you say to them, okay, thank you for acknowledging. The next time you do that, this is going to be the punishment. Do you think the punishment is fair? No, I don't think the punishment is fair. Well, I'm the parent. I think the punishment is fair. That's what it's going to be. Or, what punishment do you suggest? You don't think that punishment is fair? What punishment do you suggest? I don't think there should be a punishment. Well, it's something wrong. If you do something wrong, there must be a punishment. I don't think there should be a punishment. They're being difficult. You say, okay, this is going to be the punishment. You're having a conversation, you're showing the child respect, you're allowing the child to express their opinion, you're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, what the cause was. Now, if this is a recurring situation, and you've spoken to them about it, and you agreed on a certain punishment, or you stated that this is going to be the punishment in the event this happens again, and then they do it again, khalas. That's when the punishment applies. But you do not add to the punishment. You don't give more punishment than you promised. Or you can say, do you remember the last time when we spoke about this and we agreed that this was going to be the punishment? Yes, I remember. But I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Okay, since you acknowledge your mistake and you said you're not going to do it again, I will waive the punishment this time. Because I feel like you've learned your lesson. It's a different approach. Hey, what's happening?
What if they didn't agree?
That's why you're the child, and I'm the parent.
No, I think
You don't have to agree.
Okay, and then they'll get
We don't have to agree with what?
the punishment.
They don't agree with the punishment? Okay, so what's a suitable punishment?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
Right, so you have to come to some sort of ground rules. Many times the child is going to be difficult and not have a conversation, especially if the child is not used to you having this type of conversation, because they're going to think you're just trying to make a scene and you don't really care about my opinion, so I'm not going to engage with you. Especially if you're not used to doing this with the child. Right? So they'll just be difficult and they'll shut up. That happens. So you say, okay, this is going to be the punishment, whether you like it or not. I tried to get your opinion, but you didn't want to give it to me. So therefore, this is what's going to be the punishment because it's wrong. Aywa, Ziyad.
What if they say sorry but they didn't, but it doesn't look like they meant it?
That's very good. If they say sorry, it doesn't look like they meant it, you agreed on a punishment or not?
No.
You didn't agree on a punishment?
Yeah? No.
So if they're sorry, they don't think they meant it, it depends. So if you agreed on a punishment, I don't feel like you meant sorry, you did the crime, you do the time. Right? Sorry is for you. I can't take sorry to any bank. Right? You did the mistake, you suffer the consequence. We agreed on it. Khalas. Now, if I feel like they meant it, maybe I'll waive the punishment. Aywa, Sami. You're next, Habib.
Oh, what if they do it again just to make you mad?
Well, then they did the crime, they do the time.
I know, but then they get mad and then they do it again.
Well, that's on them. It's not on me.
Okay, and then they'll be an even more disrespectful lash out.
So what I think he's saying is basically the cycle's gonna keep on happening again.
That's fine. That's not on me. I cannot change a person's mind, even if it's my child.
I know, but then he'll just be disrespectful.
That's on him. That's between that child and Allah, subhanahu wa
I
ta'ala.
know, but like,
It doesn't change the situation. That's why.
But my job is to prevent my child from from disrespectful manners inside of my house. I try my best to be respectful and kind. If that child is just going to be difficult and disrespectful, then that's my test.
do you wait until he's 10 and then just
What?
Kick him out. You start being fair. Like, are you gonna kick him out?
when a child turns 18 in the United States, I'm no longer responsible to care for that child.
No, like.
Or to beat them? I mean, unless you want the police to be called on you and you want to go to jail,
Oh, but like.
because that's what children these days do. They call the police on their parents.
I know, but like that's different with Arabic people.
It's the same.
No, it isn't.
It's the same.
No, only American people call the police.
No. Arabs do it as well.
Oh,
If you're American, you do it.
But like, it's not.
I'm not justifying it, so don't go home and call the police on your parents, because Allah will punish you Yawm al-Qiyamah for calling the police on your parents. So fear Allah Azza wa Jal. Unless you're genuinely in trouble, like your parent or your father or your mother is actually causing you harm, electrocuting you, for example, stabbing you, right? Giving you a black eye every night, right? In that situation, yes, call the police, because this parent is harmful. Here you are.
It's only illegal in America though.
Oh, where do you live?
See, I can just travel to Africa.
So where do you live?
I can travel to Africa.
Okay, so go to Africa and ask the sheikh over there.
Okay, and I can just with my parents.
You said what?
With my kid.
Okay, so do that over there. I'm addressing the situation based on here, the United States.
What about Islam?
That's Islam.
Wait, so like.
Because Islam is going to depend on where you live. You guys have some interesting questions. Aywa, Suhaib.
What if they like they did something before they hit puberty, years before they hit puberty, and they disrespected before they hit puberty, and then after that they disrespected after they hit puberty, and then your parent just brings up something that happened before you hit puberty.
I don't think that's good parenting. So to bring up old things that have happened before and that are irrelevant for now, that's actually harmful. Yeah.
What if it's not your parent? That is.
It's just like some random old guy.
So basically, it seems like you're very obsessed with hitting. That's what it seems like to me.
What?
It seems like you have an issue with hitting. So there is a minimum, and then there is the best ethical way to act as a parent. As a parent, as an adult, you should not be striking children. Period. Right? If you are struck by an adult, you're struck by a parent, it's going to depend. Okay? If it's like really harmful, like they're hurting you like really bad, and you're in a tough situation and you can't get out, yes, call the authorities by all means. Yeah. What's your question?
Alright, so.
You're not letting me answer one question, you're asking a second one. Is it because I'm not understanding your question? I'm asking.
Just curious.
Huh?
Am I not understanding your question? You're not giving me a chance to finish answering.
Oh, I thought you were done. So like.
Okay, what's the story?
So I traveled to Libya, alright, and then my mom signed me up to this Quran class, alright, and then when I came there, I saw the sheikh whooping the kid.
Okay.
I mean, what did the kid do?
With the tube, alright, with the tube. So like, is that like because like number one, reading Quran isn't really mandatory. I mean, learning some of it is,
Yeah.
but like not the whole thing. So would it be haram if you hit him for something that's not even mandatory?
So in most places around the world,
Quran isn't mandatory.
Quran school, you get whooped. That's just
It's just standard.
That's standard. Okay? I got whooped in a Quran school. Alright? But does that mean it's okay? Is the question. Libya is different from here. Okay? The context is important. So that particular context, I cannot answer because I don't know everything that was going on with that child and with the teacher. If it is as you described, he is only beating him because he didn't memorize his surah, if this is the only reason he's beating this child, then technically he shouldn't do that.
Like beating it. It's like
Yeah, if that's the only reason, then technically no, that shouldn't be the case.
with the tutor.
Right. But that's standard. Remember, learning Quran, wherever you go, that's standard. But does it justify it? It doesn't justify it.
Okay, so then the people teaching.
Habib, have a question.
So on the topic that you said, if like a kid is disrespecting his parents over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And like the cycle keeps returning.
Yeah.
And like he says he's sorry, but he does it again.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it again. Like the thing that he did last time. He like
does something.
disrespects his like family's like parents. And
He
all
does
that.
something different.
Yeah. He
Okay.
does something different, and which is much worse. And then when someone gets mad at him, he just starts complaining.
Right. Again, you have to have a conversation with the child, man. You gotta find out what's up. And you have to keep trying because if the child is not used to their parent talking to them, it's gonna take a while for that child to believe that that parent really wants to talk to them. It's gonna take time. But you gotta have conversations with the children. Saad, you had a question?
I mean, it's very similar for me. It's just like the same thing where if the parents aren't being respectful, you understand that almost it's like kind of hard to get to a point of. It gets hard to a point where you respect them in the way that you should, right?
Well, everybody's responsible for their own actions. So the fact that you have abusive parents, that's your test. Yes, they're abusive, but they're still your parents. You have to make sure you protect yourself as much as possible, right? But at the same time, you don't want to cause harm to your parents. And likewise, if you have difficult children, then that's your test. And you have to make sure you treat them in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's with children, a lot of times it's an everyday thing. And you just gotta be patient. Anyway.
So like, what's the ruling on like favoritism? Can parents have like favorite children, or is it something that they should like not? Because it's almost natural to maybe have a favorite, or should you?
There's a difference between having a favorite and favoring. See?
Yeah.
So having a favorite is not up to you. You don't have control over that. You do have control over favoring a child over another, which means you give that child more perks than you do the other. That's impermissible. That's haram. You should treat your children equally. Make sense?
But what happens if it happens at unconscious level, But the child can sense it. The parent might not.
You try your best. You're human. There you go. Sami.
Okay, so as I was saying, this is one story. I'm wondering who's in the wrong. So there's a dad, alright?
Right.
He dies, and he gives every single one of his children a part of his wealth,
Right.
except one. And then, as very, when they were wrapping him up, the child who didn't, or the grown adult child who didn't get a part, spat on his face while he was dead. So who's in the wrong?
Both are in the wrong.
So like, who gets the worst punishment though?
That's with Allah.
The kid.
That's with Allah. But they're both wrong.
No, the only thing the child is supposed to go to.
That's disrespectful to your parent. You're not supposed to do that.
Because
But the parent is not supposed to. They're both wrong.
alright.
It's both a sin. But depriving your children of your inheritance, that's actually a greater sin. Because that's, it's mentioned in the Quran right? And there's a punishment connected to it if you don't adhere to the Quranic guidance on inheritance. What's your question?
So in the Quran, did Yaqub
Alayhi
favor
salam.
alayhi salam, did he favor Yusuf or
In his heart. Yeah, Yusuf was his favorite. But he's a prophet. So it's unlikely that he favored him. So what Sa'ad was talking about is just the natural inclination to Yusuf. And they understood that, they saw that. They acknowledged that. But he was a child. So you do treat a child differently than you treat adults. That's a given. But it's not like he was favoring him, meaning oppressing the others. Anyway, so
What if somebody is overtaken and then not just door and then maybe somebody and then somehow the police get him out of jail, but it give him to